ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। Sikhicast, and today our guest is Stevie Kaur. She's a entrepreneur and a volunteer with multiple Sikh organizations, and today she's going to talk to us about her journey into Sikhi and the organizations she works with. And before we get started, I do want to put out a trigger warning. So some of our discussions may be sensitive or uncomfortable or triggering for some of our guests. So we wanted to make sure we said that before we started. As Sikhicast is an organization that assists those who have experienced abuse and assault. And also I want to say Bul Chuka Maaf Karna for any mistakes that we make. And how about we get started? Stevie, are you there?
I am. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you for having me. And I just want to say first that any opinions or statements that I make are not affiliated with any organizations. They are my own views. So thank you for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a real pleasure. So first off, if you want to get right into it, but can we talk about how you first came into Sikhi?
Sure. So a lot of people, I think, they always think that when you come to Sikhi or when you find out about what Sikhi is, or some say Sikhism, that it's through a religious, you're at the Gurdwara or you meet someone, or it's something based in religion. And my journey didn't start there. My journey actually started on a date. I was feeling very lost in the world spiritually, and I'm a very spiritual person, but I was a bit lost. And I had a date with a wonderful man in California who was just a really good soul. And on our first date during dinner, he had told me about Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And as he was speaking and telling me about, we were having this conversation, I was so intrigued, and yet it felt very home and safe, and this was the first time I was meeting this particular man. But as I'm learning, I was more, I wanted to learn more. And so we had a couple more meetings, and it didn't really turn into like dating. It was more friendship and very spiritual meetings where I could learn about Sikhi and a little bit more about our gurus, and kind of just, that's where my foundation started. And I fell in love spiritually, actually, because I thought, wow, this is so simple, be a good human, believe in one God, help others, be honest, make an honest living. And I just thought that this seems to be where I want to go. It seems to be the path that made the most sense to me. So from there, I decided to kind of do some studying on my own and more research, because that's how my brain works. I have to know all the answers, or as many as I can get. So I did my research and continued for another year and a half. And I had ended up losing someone very close to me who passed away. And I didn't know how to deal with that grief. It was so horrific for me. But I found through Seva, because I had already started doing Seva at different Gurdwaras, I found healing through Seva. And that's kind of what put me on my path to becoming Amritari and doing more Seva, volunteering with the organizations, and that led me to today, where I'm at now.
Wow. So when you're doing the Seva, do you feel that you were able to sort of put your grief or your energy into helping others, and that helped you process it?
As my journey has had stumbles. I've fallen many times. I stand back up with trying to learn more and really, to have a good foundation in Sikhi, so that I'm strong on my path, but I'm human too. So as I've had my ups and downs, I've learned, to try to not to attach, even to the person that I lost. We were going to be married, and he died. So you can imagine how that rocked my world. And it just, but I was already learning about attachment. And when I would put into my mind that, with his death, it's possible to become one with the Almighty. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful way to be. Like, I don't want to keep them here. I don't want to mourn for them that way, wishing that they had stayed with me when you could be with Waheguru. And so I put this in my mind, and through helping others, that just kind of cemented that for me. And I don't know, in the service of others, there's healing in that, because you get to do something good during some of your darkest times. And for me, I don't know if that would work for everyone, but for me, it definitely helped, because, I work with a lot of homeless communities. I work with people who are really having as hard of a time as I was once having. So I feel like I can connect with them. And if I can grow that way and be a better human that way, then I'm enriching my life, and how could that not heal you?
Right. And Sikhi is so simple. And we talked on the show before about Nam Japana. So
Mm-hmm.
doing Simran, saying Vaheguru, and remembering God in everything you do. Kirt Karna, working hard, and Van Chakana, helping others, the Seva.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes I talk with people and they feel like, oh, I'm not a good Sikh because I don't look this way, or I don't go to the Gurdwara, I don't, but really, those I don't know if we should use the word pillars, but those three pillars, Nam Japana, Kirtkana, Vadan Chakana, it's like, are you doing those things? If you're just working on those three things, I feel like it comes really naturally. And like you're saying, we're human, we make mistakes, we fall down. And I've just seen how Vaheguru, being Mata Pita, being mother and father, just like a parent who cares for you, even when you make mistakes, there's still God is still good to me. God is still
Yeah.
making things work out in my life. And sometimes I get so anxious or worked up and like, oh, this could happen or that could happen. I'm like, why? Why am I doing that? Because just because that's the word I got, he
Yeah.
always comes through for me, just like a dependable parent. I mean, not just like, but you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean, I think that's why I don't really um I don't really care what others think of me, because I don't have to answer it to them ultimately. So I've had experiences, and I have been pretty in the community for a lot of years now. So I've seen many, many things, and I've seen great things, I've seen horrible things. Um, but I don't think Sikhi to me is a look. I think it's an action. It's really how you live your life. So whether I have the star on, I have my hair out, to me, it doesn't really matter. Yes, people can recognize me. If I look a certain way, they might say, oh, she's a Sikh. But I would hope that my actions and what I do in the world, that someone would say, oh, she's a Sikh. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely. I know what you're saying. And
Because we've had people, all in Bana, who, secretly drink, or they're, sexually assaulting someone, or they're beating their wives. And there will be some Sikhs who'll be like, no, that doesn't happen. But I hear it weekly from people in the community that it is happening. And I've personally had two Amritari men dressed all in Bana who have made sexual advances and asked me for favors. And I'm thinking, wow. And I said, I can't really help you. I can just guide you and say, you know what, you might want to take a different approach, and no, thank you. Um, so you would look at them and think, wow, they're so religious and they're so walking on the best path, but no, you're cheating on your wife and doing horrible things. So it doesn't really matter what you wear. I would love it if, yes, by our dress, our attire, what you see on the outside is really what you really were. But because I've seen it so many times, and not just in the Sikh community, we're talking Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Amish, it doesn't really matter. It's every community. Because what I tell people is that we're human beings. So humans will make mistakes, some far worse than others, but we will all make mistakes. So each day, I just hope that I live my life better than the day before. That if I made mistakes, I can learn from them and not repeat them. But how I look, because I do get that question a lot, because people will see me with my hair different ways, or like today, it's in a patka because I had to go to the Gurdwara and I'm working. I have very long hair. I just can't have it all out all the time. And they'll ask me, oh, well, but you were Amritari. I said, yeah. I said, and in my heart, I'm doing the best I can. You shouldn't judge me based on my looks. And if you do, I don't have any control over that. I don't know who taught you to judge, but I don't think it's in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, like, oh, judge people. So, um,
Right,
just judge me by my actions, and that hopefully will be enough.
right. Guru Nanak said, "I am not good and no one is bad." It's a very individual
Yeah.
um relationship with God, and so looking at someone or even comparing yourself to someone else or vice versa, however that works, is just it's not helpful. And eventually you learn that and see when you're saying, I live my life every day and try to do my best and learn from my experiences what I do that's right and wrong and how the results of that, and then try to change myself for the better. That is the only way we can eliminate our karma and to be like a self-aware being, a human being on the path of a true human being, is to learn from
Hmm.
our mistakes and try not to make the same ones again, because being on repeat is reincarnation.
Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time. Like when I talk to people, whether I'm giving a speech or a training, or even if someone wants to debate me online, because they do like to have a go online, and I'm ready. Let's go. But I tell them, like, always, I am horribly flawed. Like, I'm human. I will make mistakes. I will, like, don't look at me as to be any kind of example, because I'm nothing. I tell people I'm nothing. I'm just here trying to do good, what I can do, help people where I can, and like that's it. I being in the service, of others is really what I've made my life to be about. And I work a lot, so it's really those two things. And if people look at me on social media, you kind of know, she's about family, seva, and work. There isn't really anything else.
And the thing is, that's actually um if you've learned to love yourself, which I know you have, that's a really fulfilling life. And some people think that you must be missing something, like, oh, well, if you're not married with a bunch of kids and sending them to college for their master's degree and whatever, it's like, what are you doing? And you're like, working the service of others, which is being in the
Yeah,
service of the guru. And so
yeah.
I know I really appreciate what you do, and I know you're a real person, and I know all these people that you're helping really appreciate what you're doing, and it's for the glory of the guru.
Thanks. Yeah, I get that, not just in our community, but I think society as a whole, if you're not married and don't have children, you somehow need help. You need the rescue of a man. I mean, I hear all kinds of things, and I tell people I'm actually okay. One, because I've been married. Most of you know who I've married. A big Nihang Singh. You've met him. He's a Shastra maker in Punjab. Um, and that just didn't work out because he has a business and chose to stay in India, and I have a business and need to stay in America. So you can't really have a marriage out of that. But people will still make their stories however they decide to make their stories. I can't help them with that. um and I've had a child. I've had a daughter. I've given birth. I've done it. I don't want to do it again. She passed away, and it I can't even explain how crushing that was. Um, but so I've already had these experiences. Now I'm at a point in my life where I'm self-sufficient and independent. I live very simply, and if you came to my house or drove around with me, you would see, oh, she's pretty simple. um, because I don't need those things that I guess other people need. Um, it's just I'm very happy and at peace.
Well, I'm really glad for you that you've been able to come out of all of that suffering into this. And you know, it it's just so reminiscent of many Sikhs in our past and present that even though they have suffered, we have suffered, we continue to keep our faith in Waheguru and go closer to him because we know, such a namira adharo, that the name is my only support. So that no matter what happens, we can go to him and he'll still be there for us. And when you get that closeness and it is there, it's like you're like, I can't control anybody else and I don't want to. I
Yeah.
want, I have my guru and that's always going to be there. And if that's all that's left in the end is me and my guru, then I think that is Sikhi. We have the people we love. And like you said about attachment, and it is a hard concept, especially in this society, being raised in typical society where it's saying, family is everything, and they are,
Hmm.
but everything does turn to dust except for him. It's
Yeah. I
sad,
mean,
but it's the reality.
I'm at a point because I've had so much tragedy and loss, but I've told people when you can stand in the thick of the mud in all your despair and still find a blessing in it, you've evolved into another part of your life, and that's where I'm at. So even though, because I've had even family members are like, how could you have such a connection to God when you've suffered so much? And I said, because I'm so connected, and my belief that, you know, Waheguru, that's my comfort. And I know everything has happened, whatever I've experienced is how it was supposed to be. Even all the pain and sorrow. Um, I learned from it. I suffered through it, I learned from it, and I grew from it.
Yeah, we can just feel it, and I think that's what everyone who's seeking God wants, is to feel that no matter what, we have that connection and he's there for us. And um do you want to talk a little bit about specifically your sevas, wherever you want to start? And like I said, once again, we're going to get into some sensitive topics. Um,
Yeah.
but we wanna address those because, like you said, things happen in all communities because we are all human. But we
Hmm.
specifically, as Sikhs, want to address some things that are going on in our community, and not just address them, but take action. What can we do? And so these organizations are doing that. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's not going to
Right.
stop unless we make it stop.
Right. So I volunteer with two organizations. One, which is pretty well known, Khalsa Aid. I work with the U.S. chapters. Um, I have a team in Chicago and Milwaukee, and I work with some of the Latin American countries. And those are just our humanitarian projects. The other one, I'm the president and co-founder of Sikhsuch, and we started Sikhsuch. We're going on 3 years now. I have been a domestic violence and sexual assault advocate for over 20 years. So I used to respond to cases in the emergency department a long time ago in California and in Massachusetts. And I've heard stories from people from every different background. But as I'm a Sikh, and I believe that we need to address our own house, that it's really important. There was a sexual assault that occurred here in Wisconsin, and the girl was only, I think, maybe 12, and she didn't get any help. The response was ridiculous and poor. And she told me, she's like, Stevie, Auntie, can you change things? Can you help? And it just crushed me. It crushed me. Um, and I looked at her and I said, yes. I'm going to do something. And right about the same time is when I had seen a video about the case that happened in Maryland from like 23 years ago. And I don't know if he was a Gyani or Ragi, I can't remember. But
He was
after,
a air quotes Gianni. Yes, I'm very
okay,
familiar with
gotcha.
that case.
Right. And so when I was reading about it, and when one of the management committee members made a video apologizing for keeping that man around more children after knowing, because he was arrested and sentenced and everything, so it wasn't an allegation. Um, it actually went to court and like he was prosecuted and all that. And so I was coming from, we had just started talking about an organization, and I thought, I commented to him, I sent him a message, and that's when Dipti Kaur, who's the vice president and the other co-founder, she messaged me back, and we just kind of had a discussion, and that led us to starting Sikh Such, because we were glad that he was finally taking, that someone from that Gurdwara was taking accountability, but it was accountability 23 years after the fact. And statistics show that a perpetrator is not going to assault just one time, like one and done. They generally repeat the assault over and over with multiple people, children, whoever the victim is. And so, and I know it is incredibly hard for people to see someone wearing any religious attire, or who thinks, you know, they're a Gyani, they're supposed to be safe, or anyone that's a representation of like the Gurdwara, that they would be safe. But that's not always the case. I mean, we have predators among us, and our thing is not just accountability, but like, what measures is everyone putting in place to keep men, women, and children, females, like everyone, literally, because the cases that I've heard affect everyone. Like, what is everyone doing to keep everyone safe? And what we found out is not really anything. There aren't policies in place. There aren't protocols in place. The most recent occurrence happened in the Pennsylvania Gurdwara recently, maybe a couple months ago, in April, I believe. And the victim called me. I had a chat with them, and I contacted the management directly. And their response was, well, we wish she would have come to us directly. So then my response to that is, but what would you have done? Well, we would have sat her down and had a talk. I said, so basically you're going to re-victimize her. And this is what happens. And it's what happened here in Wisconsin with that one young girl. You know, what were you doing there? What were you wearing? How were you acting? So they don't even know really that they're doing the re-victimization. You know, they're going after the person who's making the allegation and just making feel horrible and like a victim all over again. And you have to remember, if you're a young girl and you've been touched or raped, and yes, it does happen at the Gurdwara inside, you're going to feel horrible, horrible, horrible. The last thing any victim of that is going to want to do is sit in front of that person who just attacked them, or maybe it happened last week. Sometimes it's ongoing, you know, and have a discussion as to the why, or explain to strangers as to the why. Like, it's very difficult. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and it happened when I was also very young, from someone in the family. And it took a lot of years to heal and to be as strong as I am today. So I understand when, like, every emotion that they're feeling, I know, because I felt it. And I know that with therapy and, you know, and positive influences and support, you know, it does get a little bit better. You'll always have that experience and trauma, but it does get better, and you can go on to live a healthy life. But the Sikh community, like the Punjabi community specifically, because that's who we're really working with, there's still pushback because people don't want to believe that this happens. And unfortunately, it happens quite often.
So seriously, like, why in the hell would that girl want to trust anybody who she didn't feel protected her? And like you said, possibly be faced with her attacker in a very uncomfortable situation,
Right.
and they don't want to believe it's happening. And why would someone make that up? You see all the suffering they're going through, they went through anyway, but that they're going through just to get some resolve or to stop it from happening to someone else. Why would someone make that up and then put themselves through that situation? I've heard someone say because they want attention. Who wants that kind of attention? Are you serious? Like,
Yeah, people will do all kinds of things to protect the perpetrator because they don't, for two reasons I found. They don't want to believe it because that's someone from their family or a close friend of the family. And also, another thing, this is the other thing that people don't think about, is that people within that very household may also have been a victim. And a lot of people don't think about that, but most of the people that I find are giving pushback, I always have to say it is very likely that you were also abused in some way or have, this is traumatic and it's triggering. And of course, you don't want to highlight this or even talk about it because you've been conditioned and taught, and we all have, to not talk about it. Don't say anything, like pretend it didn't happen, because people will know, they will say something, who will marry you, all the things that we've been going through like forever. And that's in every community. Um, so I know it's triggering for a lot of people because sexual assault has been going on forever, in all communities. So I want people to know this isn't an attack like on our community. I'm just trying to address it so that we can put things in place, policies, protocols, safety procedures, accountability, put all this in place so that the next generations are not touched. And if they are, they'll be supported. Because what happened with this family, not only just the girl that was a victim, but now 5 members of that family are no longer Sikhs. They found comfort and solace in a Christian church because the community basically turned on them. Instead of saying, how can we help you? What do you need from us? Instead, they just talked about them behind their back, gossiped, and I don't think that's very Sikhi, in my opinion. So they really needed support. So this is what irritates me, because the way I see Sikhi is like, you help others, you're kind, you're giving, whatever they need to serve humanity. But then what I've seen is the gossiping behind the back, and I'm just like, what are you doing? I mean, I feel like Sikhs today, not all of them, there are some beautiful Sikhs walking a great path, and I admire them. But there's a lot of us that we're doing it wrong. Like, we need to stop with the judging. We need to grow in love and heal in love and help with love and support and kindness. And the bad, the people that are doing wrong things, I don't necessarily want to throw stones at them and beat them. I want to get you help. I want to get you counseling. Definitely want to get you away from children and people that are, going to be in danger from you. But part of being a Sikh is to help even the ones that have fallen. I'm 100% against sexual assault or domestic violence in any way, but I know you don't start off that way. Something has happened in your life that has made you do these things. And, you don't have to go to the Gurdwara to be a Sikh. You can be in your home. You can pray on your own. If you're a threat to others, you don't need to be around others.
and what a shame that those 5 that you mentioned particularly have had their Sikhi, their view of Sikhi, their experience of Sikhi, their connection severed or just totally destroyed because of this this evil person, or this person who couldn't keep themselves from doing an evil thing, apparently, and then a non-supportive community. And maybe you've been told your whole life, oh, Waheguru will be there for you, the Khalsa will be there for you, we're your family, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And then to have this just one betrayal after another, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just, it's so, that's so hurtful. And I'm glad they found solace and comfort somewhere else. And as Sikhs, we do believe that there's only one God, and that you can get to him through many paths. But maybe they were totally on their way in Sikhi and everything was fine until that someone threw like nuclear bomb
Oh yeah,
into their
100%
life.
they were. I mean, you're talking like a full Amritari family. And
Yeah.
just now it's just, and it was crushing to me because I love this family so much. And it just, when I hear this in communities, it just I'm crushed, and I want to tell them, oh, you guys are doing it wrong. Like, we need to do better, and I throw myself in there because, like I said, I'm horribly flawed. So when I say we, I mean all of us. We all need to do better. And but I hear it all the time. I have so many victims who have come to Sikh Such, and they're not ready. And we don't force anyone. It's really at your pace when you want to speak up or have some actions done. But so many have come forward, and what I hear a lot is, there's so much shame, and I understand because after being assaulted myself, I felt that shame, and then finally one day I was able to empower myself and not feel that shame anymore because as a victim, we didn't do anything wrong. Like, I was a child. Many of them are children that these men have assaulted, and women do assault too. It's not just men, but we do have the majority that it turns out it are men. So the calls I get from people like the Sikhs that contact Sikh Such, they don't want anyone to know because they're worried that people will turn against them in the community. And so I want to say, Sikh Such, we're there to support you. We're not going to judge you. We're going to support you because we understand what you've gone through. We understand that it wasn't, that you were a child. It's not a fault of yours. But I even tell people who are adults, people, when we do trainings, we give talks on dating, kids, Sikhs that are in college. Even if, you don't have to be a child, even if you are an adult and you're dating, or you went on a date, you believed yourself to be in love, and you were even maybe having sex. But at any point where you're like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, you have every right to say no, to stop, to remove yourself from any situation. And we need to change this mentality like, oh, well, he or she, must have wanted it, must have been okay. It doesn't matter what you may have felt up until the moment where you say, no, I don't want to. It's no, you stop. So we're trying to get this so that people, like, we're trying to educate people so they understand, so that if that happens, people won't start judging and say, well, you were drinking. You shouldn't have been drinking. It doesn't matter if you're drinking, drunk, passed out. That doesn't give another human the right to violate your body in any way.
Right. So
Yeah.
I really love how I know your organization is going in, and I've seen that these Gurdwaras have been pretty open to it, and I feel like the younger generations are more open to it. But yeah, teaching about consent and what really is consent. The fact that we
Mm-hmm.
are married, even for instance, is not an automatic consent to any and everything.
Oh, yeah. When I told Nirmal, when we were married, and we had to talk about something, and he kind of made a joke because he didn't understand. And I said, oh, no, no, no. I said, even if I'm married to you, if I say no, it's no. And he was like, Acha. And I'm like, yeah, like, it's no. And he's like, I didn't know this. And I was like, well, how would you know? No one in India is teaching this. They're not talking about consent. So, and he was really like, wow. He's like, so all husbands, no one can. And I'm like, nobody has the right. I said, I don't have the right to touch you, and you don't have the right to touch me, even though we're married. If I say no, it's still a no. If you say no, it's a no. I said, because we have to have that respect. And so him and I, we always had that respect. That was never, that line was never crossed.
Right, good. And it's good to communicate that. And I think you're going into his education, so even kids are learning that. So something I've practiced with my own children is that even with family members, people will say, go give grandma a hug. And the
Yeah.
kid seems like maybe they don't really want to. That doesn't go on.
Yeah.
I had to explain to the other family members, look, it's not that I'm saying can't hug you or they didn't, it's not a dig against you. This is me standing up for my child and saying that they have autonomy, and
Hmm.
there's no, if they don't feel like touching somebody right now, we are not forcing touch. So
Right.
even hugs with grandma, even, and it's not because grandma's a creep, it's they just didn't feel like it right then, and they're allowed to do that, because I, as an adult, I wouldn't want to be forced to. And then you're teaching them, you're automatically setting them up that forcing touch is okay, and that pleasing someone is more important than what they want for themselves in the moment or at any time. So teaching them at a young
Right.
age that that's, I think that's really where that starts. I mean, anyone can learn, especially if they're open to learn. Anyone can learn. But I think it's important to emphasize, like, we have to teach that to our children. And I'd say my number one advice would be, and maybe this sounds like a helicopter parent moment, but do not leave your children alone with anyone. Because as much as
Hmm.
you think you know someone, you don't. You don't know.
Yeah, it would be great if we lived in a world where they were safe, especially in any house of worship, in any community, because that's where you should be the safest, And unfortunately, I mean, people have access. They see on social media the cases in the UK, the cases in Canada. We cover Sick Such in the US, any cases in the US, and then we work with um, other agencies in the other countries, but the cases are there in abundance. If you only knew, if one is talked about, guaranteed there's like 10 more not talked about. Because no one wants to, they're going to feel like they're labeled. I can say, because I've healed, and done a lot of work on myself, that yes, I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I survived it. And when people call me and talk to me and they're like, this is happening, or they'll say, there's a wedding event and that person's going to be there. I mean, can you imagine how uncomfortable? I know, because I experienced it myself, and I reassure them and tell them, one, you do not have to go. You do not have to put yourself in a situation that's going to make you feel pain again. Like it doesn't matter if it's family. You have every right to just not go, because it will be triggering and painful. And why bring yourself harm that way? You know, like, you survived such a horrific thing. You have every right to say, no, I'm not going. And the message I want to send to all the families is, don't pressure. If someone's telling you, no, the person who violated my body is going to be there, I don't want to go, then my hope is that they say, well, I'm not going either, because I can't believe that happened to you. It's such a horrible thing. Or they just say, okay, of course, don't go. I know if it was my daughter or my son, I would say, absolutely, you do not have to go. Like, I would never want you to be in a place that made you feel pain again, ever. And as a Sikh, we need to all feel that way. Everyone is my sister, my brother. They're, any children, they're all my children. So of course I would never want them to feel pain.
Right. And one of the vows we took as the Khalsa, or will take, is that is to protect everyone, but to protect the Sangat. And so, absolutely, I believe that. And actually, that particular case in Maryland, I met that person, and I'm like, this is one shifty-eyed kind of. I don't know. When something makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, but you don't know why.
Yeah.
And then later on, I found out about that. I brought it to the attention of a certain organization, parts of the Sangat, and I said that I think you guys need to be aware of that, because we're going there and our children are just running around loose, playing in the Gurdwara, just like all Gurdwara.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I will not attend any event that is held there until that person is removed. And I think that we need to say something.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I did receive some support from some people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but otherwise, I was ignored, and also warned. I was warned not to venture into Nindia. If they are convicted, it is not Nindia. It's not a rumor. This is a convicted person, and I know other people personally who were friends with that family up until that happened, and parted ways with them and spoke out against them, and actually moved away from that area because
Mm-hmm.
it was not being handled. And they said, well, we will not come here again. We will not bring
Yeah.
our children here. We're leaving. They moved states away
Yeah.
to get away
Well,
from the community because they were not doing anything. So 23 years later, I'm not saying it's too late, but I'm saying there was so much time that you had that could have saved a lot of pain and harm to the
yeah.
community. And I'm glad
Well,
we're waking up now, but
yeah.
and
It's in
I want you to respond to this, but I also want to say in your response here, could you name maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that would be your top advice if somebody they're listening now, but for some reason they don't decide to do any more looking into this or to go on the Sikhicast website or whatever? What are like your top 1, 2, 3 tips for families or for the Sikh community to um to take action or to prevent this kind of thing? What's your advice on protecting their families and protecting others? Like, especially, like, I would say when I'm there, I'm always keeping an eye out. I'm watching everyone.
Mhm.
I'm watching you. I am watching you. And if I have to tell someone, hey, I'm watching you, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
So if you could do that.
Yeah. I would say so. Just to add to your point too, it took 23 years. I mean, it's not too late, but we did approach them about setting up protocols, doing background checks, screenings, like all this stuff, and they just didn't, and that tells me a lot. So I would say to anyone who's listening, or who wants to share this information, is that we have to get the Gurdwara community, the management trained. We have to let them know what the liability is, and what their responsibility will be, because in a lot of states, every state varies, but in a lot of states, you will, as a religious organization, or house of worship, you will be held liable for damages, which is going to cost a lot of money. And I know they're not going to want to deal with that. So, and I know that shouldn't be the first thing, but that's what it comes down to a lot of the times. The second is we want to put training. We want to train the Sangat, first the committee, then the Sangat, how to respond. Because right now, if a sexual assault occurs, they don't know what to do. They don't know who to call. They don't know what to do. So they just do nothing, or they pretend it doesn't happen. And the other thing is we want people to get support. We want them to file legally, to report it, but we also want them to get support. And that's where we can help them, so we can help them with understanding what the law is. We can help them with training and doing background checks, and we can help them with getting support, some counseling, and having meetings, whatever it takes to get people to understand and talk about this. This is how you make change. You won't change anything if you stay silent. The cycle will just continue, and more of our community will be damaged. We want our children to grow up and have healthy marriages and healthy lives, and partnerships with people. So that's not going to happen if we don't make change. But we have to start, definitely. Yes, we could do it in each household, but because the Gurdwara is like our common area where we all meet and connect with Waheguru. So this is where we need to start. We need to start with the committee management training, and then also the Sangat training, and putting policies in place.
Okay, thank you so much for doing that. So we're getting close to the 45-minute mark, and I know you said you had some things. So is there anything you want to say before you need to go?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could talk on this subject for days, but I did have to cut it short today. I really appreciate your time and having this platform to kind of share my story and the things that Sikhsuch, can do for the community. Just my number is everywhere. It's on the website also. Please, if any question is fine, it doesn't matter. Anything anyone has to ask, please reach out to us so that we can help. Even if you just need to get on a call, send me a text, send me an email. This is how we start healing, how we start changing things, is to have these discussions. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you for everything that you're doing. We really need this. And yeah, your organization does come to the Gurdwaras, and you guys have literature, and you do speaking and seminars, and then can meet with people privately, correct?
Yeah, and Sikh camps too. We've done some of the training for some of the staff, the counselors for Sikh camps, but you are sending your children to these camps. Don't you want to know that they're safe? Don't you want to know that the people holding the camps, the counselors, that everyone is trained, that everyone has had a background check? I mean, I know if I was dropping my kid off, I would want to know these things. I would want to feel safe this way.
Yeah, my oldest is 13. He's going to his first camp this year. I'm not leaving him there. I don't know those people. Especially sleepaway camps. If I was going to send them to a
Exactly.
camp, I'd be like, okay, I'm also volunteering as a staff member.
Right.
Um, I'm watching all the kids. I'm watching my kids. I'm watching you. But yeah, absolutely. You're totally right. And I think that these
Yeah.
things, like you said, maybe just don't occur to people until they hear about something that happens and then they're confused on whether to believe it or not and so on and so forth. But yes, make
Yeah.
the
We'll
most
train any
important
camp.
thing,
Like, we'll come out to you.
especially, as a parent, the most important thing you will do is raise these little human beings. And your number one priority is to keep them safe. You've been given these children. So that's great. Yeah, to the camps and yeah, I agree with you 100%. And we'll likely have a part 2 where you can continue. I'd like to see, people who have listened comment and ask questions and, give us some maybe things that they would like to hear, and put out there for everyone to hear. And I hope that you get some people who maybe didn't know who to go to before, and they'll come to you and they'll get help and they'll get healing, because of this podcast and the work that you do.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. We would
So
love to help.
yeah, so have a great rest of your day, and yeah, keep on doing it, but never quit. That's the best
Thank you.
advice I ever got, and just never quit.
Right. Thank you so much.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
Waheguru Ji Ka
ਫਤਿਹ.
Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Bye bye. Okay, everyone. So that was Stevie Kaur, and sounds like we're going to have more to talk about with her. But I want to talk about next month in July, we will have Bai Omar. And so he is at 6 p.m. on, and he's a Muslim brother who joins the Sangat. Uh, and it's a little reminiscent for me of Bhai Mardana, who was a Muslim musician, and he was a friend of Guru Nanak, and he followed Guru Nanak on his travels. And we'd really like to hear from him about his experience in the Sangat and with Nam. And then in August, we will have Akali Bushi, who's a mixed martial artist located in Canada, and he'll come on and he's going to talk to us about his work and about traditional martial arts in Sikhi and about self-defense and our duty as Sikhs to be fit and be ready to defend ourselves and defend others. And just really get to hear about some more Bir Ras, or warrior spirit within the Sikh Panth. And so thanks everybody for listening, and make sure to comment, like, and share. And any questions you have, you can forward to us on our Sikhicast page on Facebook, or in the comments on YouTube, and we will get right back to you. And or anything you would like to hear about on our podcast, and see if we can get a guest that can answer some questions for you. So I hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and Vai Guji Ka Khalsa, Vai Guji Ki Fateh.